Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hi. Hi. Hey, you guys all tired from walking around the show? Some of you are, some of you aren't. Put your feet up. How many of you have eaten at Hartford House before? None of you. One or two. Do you know that those veggies and things you have there are grown in the garden out the back? How divine is that, eh? But here to tell you more, please welcome on stage the executive chef of Hartford House, Christian Hahndiek, and his general manager, Duncan Bruce. Hey, my man. Welcome on.
Thank you.
Dunk, welcome on stage, buddy. Lekker. Now listen, having a look at a couple of pictures of this of the shop and what you do, important to have those fresh ingredients right there for this man to cook with.
Yeah, I think it's great, and it's really all about what we are. You know, we live in probably the best local pantry in the country, so to have it fresh on hand, critically important for them, but also important for the diners and the patrons that visit us, I think.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to leave the stage now. Christian's going to cook, and he's going to drink.
Good
No,
plan.
actually, he's just going to tell you what good wines go with it. Ladies and gents, once again, please put your hands together for Christian and Duncan.
Thank you, everyone. Duncan's just going to give you a little brief background about the hotel while I just check a few things in the oven, and then he's going to hand over. Thank you.
Let's not burn anything there. Okay, guys, welcome. It's so lovely to have you with us here today. We came down earlier this morning just to join you here, and it's such a privilege and an honor to be here, I must say. We hope that you'll find time to come up and visit us and really indulge and see what we're all about, what we do. We're a small little boutique hotel just outside of Moy River, and only 15 bedrooms. But the pleasure about the place is, of course, all about the interaction with you, the food and wine, and really what we can showcase on a daily basis. So it's really just about that, delighting the senses and creating that bit of a wow factor that I think everybody deserves every now and then. So if you find the time to come and visit us, we'd love to have you. It's a short drive up. Pop along the Midlands Meander, why not, and go and see some of the artisanal producers that we actually buy from. It's critically important that we make note of them and reference to them. So we hope to see you soon. I'll chat to you a little bit later on. I'm going to give you a little bit of a really funky, cool demo on how to open wine slightly differently to your mainstream corkscrew. And we'll talk a little bit about the pairing and why we've actually gone with that. It's a critical thing for us to make sure that when you dine with us, wine and food are the essence of the evening, and they just can't go without each other. So the perfect marriage, and we'll get to that later. So, Chef, off you go.
All right. So we chose a very special, well, it's very close to my heart dish to show you today. And I don't think many people realize how versatile and how easy it is to make. You often see it in your supermarkets, all packaged up, ready to go. But I don't want anyone to feel like that is actual real gnocchi. So what we're going to make for you today is we're going to make you some real gnocchi, hopefully avoid you from buying it off the shelf in future, because you will see it's a few very simple steps. What's also very special, you might have seen these cropping around supermarkets recently as well. These are fresh artichokes. And they're really special. They're in the middle of season right now, because what we do is we represent what's in season, because that's when it tastes its best. So I'm going to show you how to peel and cook an artichoke as well. And yeah, please, don't be shy to ask any questions. And hopefully, this is a very different kitchen to what I'm used to, so everything goes smooth. So for about an hour now, I've had some potatoes in the oven. These are very important that they're cooked in the oven. That's due to the fact that boiling them in water is going to make them absorb moisture. And moisture is exactly what you don't want when you're making your gnocchi dough. So you'll feel it's nice and crunchy on the outside. Keep the skin on it. And we're just going to slice it in half nicely. And you should have this lovely, fluffy, soft potato in the middle here, which is absolutely roasting hot. I start with a little mixing bowl and a fine chinois. This is also how we make our mash in the hotel, because this really gives the base of the potato a lovely fluffiness and more of an opportunity to absorb more of that lovely butter and cream that we use in our mashed potato. So I literally push the potato through the strainer, through the skin. And you can see how quick and easy it goes through. It's essential that this process is done while the potato is hot. Just with the back of the spoon, you can work it through a little bit. And we'll go for the second half. So, has anyone seen these around the shops lately? Anyone seen these in the bars? Do you know what to do with them? Okay. I'm going to explain that in a bit. You might have seen the canned ones or the jarred ones, and those, like the gnocchi, are not to be mistaken for really representing what they are. And they're so versatile with fish, game, meat, and even great for vegetarians as well. So here I have this lovely mashed potato. I normally do this with one large potato, so it's a good thing I've got a backup one. Because it's essential you don't end up with just a dumpling. You want that lovely potato taste. Ooh, that's hot. It's just going through the chinois so nicely because it's beautiful and hot. So we've got our potato base now. And these beautiful free-range eggs have actually survived the journey all the way from Moy River today. I was a bit nervous. They're on the back of a bakkie. And we're known for our pristine roads in Moy River. So we like to use free-range eggs because we're on a farm. It just represents us better. And really, it's worth that extra little bit of money. So you can see now I'm separating the egg yolk from the egg white. And this is quite a cheated method. And that goes straight into your hot potato. Now, the trick with the gnocchi, if you've ever made scones, the trick with the gnocchi is also having light fingers, keeping that dough not overworked. That's what's going to give it that lightness, that fluffiness. And so it's got a touch to it, like your grandma would have a touch with her scones. We've got a nice stone ground flour here. Once again, not all gluten is bad. Rather, before you go the banting route, try out some real proper nice flour. And we're going to add about a cup of that to our mashed potato. You can always add more flour, but you don't want to start off with too much. A very nice little bit of seasoning rather than all salt is a good tablespoon or two of Parmesan. And then freshly picked from our garden this morning. You'll see this, it's actually quite indigenous to Natal. We see this all around. We've got some wild garlic. It's very pungent and used in moderation, but it's a nice way of getting a good garlic flavor into something. And it's got a little bit of an earthiness to it, which most garlics don't. So we're just going to lightly chop that up. But once again, this is really flexible to whatever herbs you'd like to put in there, be it basil or parsley. Grain mustard was lovely with pork, so you could put a bit of grain mustard into your gnocchi. And for different colors, if you wanted a bit of beetroot juice in there for a nice bright red gnocchi, which is quite fun around Christmas time. Just sneaking up around the corner for us. So once you've got all your ingredients together, like I said earlier, you don't want to overmix your dough at all. So once all your ingredients are together, ready to go, you begin mixing. And you just give it a good mush around, just till it slowly starts to represent a dough. So now it's time to actually get your hands a little bit dirty. We're going to go onto our chopping board. And we can bring this dough together. Now, if I've done this right, which I think I have, you end up with a nice soft dough that's not too sticky on your hands, that'll be quite easy to roll out. Into a little log. You can actually see how the dough isn't completely mixed together. That's not what you want. You don't want a dough that's, stodgy and overworked. You want a dough that's sort of fluffy with bits of potato in it, that's really going to give a good texture. And there we have the beginnings of our gnocchi roll. From there, we literally slice little gnocchis, little dumplings. Which are quite easy. Just to pop into your water, which must be salted, of course. And you can leave that in there for about 3 minutes. You'll know it's ready when it starts to float to the surface. This is not something you have to prepare straight away or cook and serve, because once it's floated to the surface, you can keep it in your fridge for actually up to 2 or 3 days to reuse at another stage. So we've got the gnocchi out the way. I'm just going to talk to you briefly about artichokes. These are very fun, as our young trainees often find out in our kitchen. You should normally wear gloves with these. They work almost like a potato in essence, where they turn your hands black, they turn everything black. If you don't have lemon or gloves on your hands, you're going to walk away with some funny colored hands like you've robbed the bank for a couple of days. So we never tell our trainees this trick until they've done it once, and then they never forget again. So, when you start with an artichoke, always try and pick ones that feel heavier, that they're nice and firm in the middle, because that's the only part you can eat. Unfortunately, everything on the outside here is very woody. So we take off the top third. And unfortunately, all that top third is complete waste. From there, you might have seen these in kitchen shops and wondering what they're for. These little curved knives, you actually peel them down the stem nicely. You can actually see our gnocchi is starting to float now. I don't know if you guys can see that. They've kept their shape nicely. If your gnocchis don't float, then you've got a little bit of an issue, which is normally flour, or not enough of it. So back to our artichoke. I'm going to end up with black hands tonight on the service. You peel down all the way along the stem, getting rid of all that woodiness. You want to get as close to what you'll see is this really soft, nutty, white center, which is, it's really gold. You can't beat the flavor of a fresh artichoke. And it's so unfortunate that we don't use enough of it. So you peel out your outside leaves, and you just keep going around until you find yourself at this light green, softer center. And it's quite strange, because what you're actually eating of the artichoke is the stem. That is the tastiest part. So we just square it off for now. You might wonder why an artichoke is called an artichoke. This is actually the choke. It's a very fibrous, hairy center that is not very enjoyable to eat. But that we remove later. We go now around the cut leaves on the outside, which are very woody. And we're slowly starting to find something that's more recognizable as food and less as a flower arrangement. This is actually a recipe a chef in France showed me. And he was very, very specific about how he liked his artichokes. And I think I had to do this about 30 times till it was about his standard. And I think if I asked him now, it would just be okay. So I've got a little bit of lemon water in here. That's going to stop the artichoke from going black. And I'm going to chop the artichoke in half. From what you can see there, that is your actual end result of an artichoke. That takes about 40 minutes of cooking in salted water for a big artichoke, or 20 minutes for a smaller artichoke. And what we do then is we marinate our artichokes in a lovely mixture of virgin olive oil, lemon, smoked paprika, and that's good in your fridge for up to about 2 weeks. And I mean, it's really, once again, there's something that's flexible. If you're doing it with fish, you could marinate it with orange and fennel. If you're doing it with pork, once again, you could go for more of a bay leaf and thyme and rosemary, more herbs. So it's something to always keep in your pantry, and it's great when people come around to serve it with something or just have it in a bowl as snacks. So I'm going to show you a little bit about plating artichokes and gnocchi the way we would like to do it. While I get ready, Duncan has this amazing contraption, which has caused many hours of practice. And
pain.
And pain. What's important for us is, as much as we're a foodie restaurant, we wouldn't be anywhere with our food if it wasn't for the beautiful pairings that Duncan takes hours researching and putting into it. So he's going to give you a brief talk about how he selects the wines that we do with our dishes. Thank you.
So, well done, mate. So firstly, as you can see, I mean, if you were listening to what he was talking about and all these flavors and wonderful ingredients and profiles that were going on, it's an absolute nightmare for us because we have to now find something that's appropriate, that's not going to fight with the dish, that's going to just create a beautiful sort of harmonious balance. I'm going to tell you really quickly about this specific wine that we've chosen today. And it is the Good Food and Wine Show, so it was appropriate that we came up with a wine that was totally suitable for it. But let me just let you in on a little secret that if you're preparing artichokes at home exactly the same way that he did, and you're stuck and you can't find a bottle of wine, pop out, get a great bottle of IPA lager, and you'll be done. It's a beautiful combination. So what we wanted was, once he talks about the rest of the ingredients, you're going to see that there's almost like going to be an explosion of flavor profiles going on inside your mouth, and your taste buds are going to go crazy. That makes it extremely difficult because what you want here, in this particular case, is you want the food to be the standout. So we need to find something that just slightly undercuts that. So we've gone with a very cool climate Sauvignon Blanc varietal. So we've actually taken you all the way down to Elam, which is on the Cape Agulhas, on the southernmost tip of Africa. And you're going to find this beautiful farm called the Berrio. Just a quick story about the Berrio is it's actually a Portuguese ship that sailed out many years ago, and there was a couple of people on it that the mission was to round the southernmost tip in Africa, and in the gift to them was that if they rounded the point successfully, the ship would then become theirs. So off they went, they were successful, and they went back home. The Berrio, the farm was then created, and they grow everything on the farm, and it's absolutely beautiful. So we wanted a super cool climate. We wanted a racy, glitzy, sort of very fruit-driven, beautiful, slightly acidic Sauvignon Blanc here. 2015, of course, was a fantastic vintage. And so what they've created here is a superb and sublime bottle of wine. So I'm just going to sort of leave that there, possibly for a show in terms of the picture. It's just been released. Beautiful. It's available in most sort of connoisseur wine shops, and I can tell you, slightly chilled on its own or with that dish today will be beautiful. It's going to pick up so nicely on the flavors. This little contraption we have here, and again, I'm just going to stick away from that. It wouldn't be appropriate to pair a red wine with this particular dish for one reason and one reason only. The artichokes are going to make the wine bitter and tannic, and it's really just going to be a horrible experience. So what we've got here is this little contraption, and we were playing around because sometimes it's quite nice to do something a little bit different. And we found this chap who's actually from 11 Madison Park over in New York, I think it is, in the States. And he's a sommelier by trade. I'm not. I just drink too much of the stuff, and that's what helps us get in such good shape. What he found is that there's this really cool tool, and it's called a port tong. And the idea behind the port tong is that when you have really old bottles of port, or wine for that matter, really the only thing that the cork is doing is actually just holding the wine into the bottle. But try and open it with a corkscrew, it's absolutely brittle and just falls away. So what we're going to do is we're just going to time this. We found this little guy in Cape Town who actually makes these for us, and it's great. It's worked for us so many times, and it's a wonderful little show. So Tane's going to probably just tell me exactly when I've done 1 minute 50 on the dot. And all we're going to do is we're just going to put, this is a very basic little Bunsen burner, and the idea behind this thing is to get it as hot as we possibly can in 1.5 minutes. And what's going to happen here is basically the heat that the steel's going to create once it attaches to the glass of the bottle is actually going to make a little incision in the bottle neck. What I've done here is I've just taken something really lovely out of the cellar back at home, and that's just a little Marathi Merlot. It's a 2000 vintage, so essentially the cork will probably still be fine, but it was one of the oldest that we could find, so just to show it to you. The idea, again, as I said, is once this gets really nice and hot, we're just going to clamp it onto the top of the bottle, and what it should do is, after a little twist, and emphasize what it should do, is basically just give a little incision. Then we're going to take a little bit of ice cold water, and it's quite a wonderful way to create a little bit of a show. We like to do this tableside for most of our guests who do enjoy buying rare bottles of wine, or just the normal ones. Works absolutely fine. We haven't tried this with a screw cap yet, so I don't think that would be appropriate. So there it is. It's a fantastic little tool. You've got to see it to believe it, and have a little bit of fun with it. So we're about 1 minute and 10 seconds out. We've tried and practiced this so many times over, and it really, really is a great thing. So it's going to get nice and hot. We're about ready now to go, I think. And always just remember that when you're doing this, it's hot. So what we need is we need an ice bowl next to it. We'll just slide the tong into there once we're done, and then a little bit of water. Now, normally what I would need as well is a bit of a decanter, and because we need to pour the wine, obviously you will find natural sediment sitting at the bottom. Can I go, mate?
You're on.
Are you happy?
Good
Okay.
to go.
So we're just going to basically get this gas off here now. Thank goodness, and I see there is a fire blanket under the counter here, so we're good to go. And all we want to do now is just basically get your bottle nice and steady. I'd like to go in just below the cork here, if that's okay, because that's the idea. So it's really just wanting to... And as I told you, should get it nice and warm. A couple of seconds left to go, mate, and I hope this works. And we'll just go around this side. You think we're good to go?
Give it a bash. The trick is that every wine bottle's neck is quite different, and obviously we don't practice on our very special vintages as we have here. So,
and that was
magic.
the end of the top. So really cool little thing that we got going on there. And like I said, all we have to do now is simply just pour it through a fine sieve strainer. Even if you use a little bit of oil filter paper, it works quite well too. And the show, again, is just to decant it beautifully in front of guests at the table, and voila, they'll enjoy. So go and get one of these. They're great fun for a little party trick at home. Over to you, mate. Enjoy it.
All right, so while Duncan lets the wine breathe, the way I like my gnocchi is actually a little bit crispy on the outside. Just in case my gnocchi went south, I've brought some from the kitchen. I like to start off with a little bit of virgin olive oil. So this would have been the gnocchi which had floated to the surface. Don't put it into cold water to cool down, because once again you want to avoid as much moisture as possible. Just let it steam off. And we're going to go into a nice hot pan, non-stick preferably. Wow, it's a very fancy stove. You can see those sizzling away quite nicely. We've also got these beautiful little onions that we poached in red wine and balsamic to warm up. Some little comfy tomatoes. The purpose of this is to really show you the versatility of gnocchi. And this can really be your own creation, because that's what we do, and that's why I became a chef, is to be creative and to have as much fun with ingredients as possible.
And feed us.
And to feed the managers and the staff, of course. Very important as well, have a good salt. I'm not a firm believer in iodized salt, so we've got this beautiful natural crystal salt here, which just takes a bit of a crush and a sprinkle. Our stunning little artichokes, which we've prepared. You can actually see how beautiful that is for your dish. And of course, I've got a little bit of a French training, so there's nothing wrong with a good knob of butter from my perspective. Adds a bit of richness and flavor. And we've got a little bit of fresh thyme here, which we're just going to sizzle along with it and everything. The reason they call these harder herbs as an aromatic is because they release so much scent and smell when they're actually cooking. And what's incredible with a little sprig of thyme in the pan with everything you're cooking, even though you don't chop it all over it, you don't put it inside it, just cooking next to it is going to infuse that lovely flavor in the whole dish. So all that oil from the artichokes that has been marinated in, that little bit of butter, that salt, and now that thyme working its way through the dish. It's actually making me quite hungry. I think we missed lunch today. Yeah, we're going to go over to the KitchenAid now. And I'm going to show you a little bit about our style of plating here at Hartford. You know, it's very important to get a visual effect from your food. And as much as a good flavor, we like to have a bit of fun with our cooking. I think in essence that's why we do what we do, is just to entertain people with what we do, and make us unique and special and really stand out. So you're waiting for this gnocchi to get a nice light browning on the outside, your artichokes to warm up slightly through. This is a great dish for vegetarians, but we're going to put a little twist on it as well. We're just waiting for a little something special from the back. So, going to bring this over to our little plating station here, which is a lot cleaner than where I was working. I want to burn your counter. So, we always look at things at Hartford from a good food perspective, that it's got to taste good, it's got to look good. But we have to put our own signature on things as well. And we have to look at something and see how we're going to turn this into something that's really wow for our guests. What we have here is this lovely chimichurri sorbet mix. Now, if you don't know chimichurri, it's a mixture of oregano, parsley, chilies, lemon, smoked paprika, garlic. We've picked this all out of our garden today. And we're going to pour this into our KitchenAid mixer. Now, we like to call ourselves sort of on the forefront of South African cooking and cuisine. And Yeah, basically we use a lot of new techniques, a lot of fun techniques for our guests to experience. This isn't something I'd like you to try at home without the right kind of training, but we thought we would bring a little bit of Hartford to Durban, if that's okay. So Duncan, if you wouldn't mind just pouring your wine, I'm just going to go grab our special ingredient. Excuse me.
So guys, this ingredient that it's going to be using now, it's gave me extreme nerves and stress on the way down. So whilst he said that the organic free-range eggs didn't break, it's that thing that's coming in here now that was sat behind the driver's seat that made my nerves go crazy. Thank goodness we made it here alive, and he'll explain to you a little bit about the ingredient now. It's a really, really cool wow factor. Chef, go for it.
All right.
Enjoy it.
So thanks very much for the help. This is minus 196 degrees liquid nitrogen. So we treat it as we do boiling oil in essence. We're lucky enough to get it. Where we get it is a bit of a trade secret, I'm afraid. And what's fun about this is we use many preparations for this, but we use this to make instant ice cream. Now, when you freeze ice cream, you normally get little ice cream crystals in it. When you freeze ice cream very fast, you avoid those crystals. So we get a super smooth ice cream in our restaurant from this. The important thing is to pour it nice and slowly. This actually releases quite a bit of mist and smell as well, which is a technique we use in our kitchen. So I'm getting this beautiful smell of the fresh herbs, the lemon, the paprika. You're welcome to come up and have a smell as well if you'd like. And literally in 2 to 3 minutes, we have this silky, smooth sorbet, which just can't be beat by any ice cream shop. Okay. Now, if I could see where my utensils are. We've done this on many occasions with a full house, and it's quite a visual experience. Important to wipe down your bowl as you're going. I don't know what the manufacturer's warranty says about liquid nitrogen with KitchenAids, but we haven't had to find out just yet. So that's really where we wanted to go. Absolutely. You can actually see how hard that's hitting now. You get that lovely fresh parsley, oregano. So just scraping down the bowl nicely. I'm going to give that one more whisk. And we're good to go. So you can actually see how that liquid I poured in there has formed this bright green sorbet, all our lovely fresh garden herbs. Now, what's very important when it comes to plating is you don't want to hide anything. You want to keep everything where you can see it. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration on some of our new modern plating. We've got a couple of artichokes going on the plate, these beautiful red onions, bright red tomatoes. Ooh, that wine looks delicious. And then, of course, our little fried gnocchis. I'm using the actual curve of the plate to create a canvas for this dish, and following almost a bit of a line. Here we have an assortment of little pickings from our garden. Some patsoi, little edible flowers, mustard leaf, and then extra special, we actually smoked a little bit of Hartford, which is this beautiful, soft, rich, dark meat that was grown locally in the Midlands. So we've got these beautiful little discs of Hartford on there. And we're going to have to finish this off with this bright green sorbet. Now, the nice thing about putting a savory sorbet on a dish is it's going to melt nice and fast. It's going to create almost a dressing on your plate. And I'm just finishing this off with a little creme fraiche for a bit of neutralness between all those very heavy, strong acidic flavors. And with this beautiful wine and that plate of food, I think that's really us at Hartford House. Thank you.
Well done, mate.
Would anyone have any questions? Would you like to come up and see the dish for yourself? Taste any of the chimichurri sorbet? You're absolutely welcome.
No questions from anyone? Here's a question over there. Let's
Yes.
see what you want to know. And no, he doesn't, I don't know if he wants to marry you.
Hello, Chef.
There's smoked paprika, which is a little bit naturally spicy. We use the hot variety.
Sorry, folks, we've got a question off the floor here quickly.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Yes.
Christian, yes.
Chef, I just need to know, there's a bit of an argument going on at the moment that molecular gastronomy has no soul and is basically taking away the true essence of food.
always
I just want to know
different,
how you feel about that.
Well, I believe you should always base what you're doing around good flavors first. There's no point in doing something that's fancy, elaborate, uses a whole bunch of different chemicals and additives if it's not going to elevate the flavor of what you're doing. So we would only use these techniques where it's going to add something to the dish. So it's always very important to use that ground basing of flavor in the concept of creating a dish. It's a very good question.
Thank you.
This is our smoked Hartford.
Right, ladies and gents, those of you still seated, let's have a nice big round of applause. And if you're ever out there where
Yes.
you can go and experience the delights. Thanks, Christian.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Duncan.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
These ones here, these are cooked. So what I've done is I've boiled these for about 40 minutes.
Thanks, ladies and gents. We can exit the theatre through the side,
Then I've marinated
and we'll be heading towards our next show shortly.